So I've decided to take a visit to Full Circle. This is a store in Newnan that sells vintage, collectible, antique toys, games, computers, computer games, and all of that. So I'm gonna go inside the store, see what they got today.
Was I supposed to just keep going straight? So you were supposed to keep going straight until you see the dominoes, and then it will be across that street to the right of the dominoes. So keep going across to where the
One
slide
thing I
is,
really
and
like
then
about this
slow
store
down.
is, man, there's so much stuff from when I was a kid here. Yeah, this is basically you can bring your stuff in and sell it to them, and then they'll resell it. Uh, at eBay prices. That's fine. But yeah, like this, like the Mork and Mindy stuff. Man, I loved Mork and Mindy when I was a kid. My father was a television critic for St. Petersburg Times in Florida in the 70's. And so he went out to California every year and met the actors and learned about the new shows that were going to be on and then wrote about it. And he took us along with him every once in a while. And so I met a bunch of stars from shows from the 70's and early 80's, including Robin Williams. He was just the coolest dude, man. I was about 10 years old, and we were waiting for him to come out of the little meeting area that they had going on. And there was a line of paparazzi just waiting for all the actors to come out. And when he came out, he saw myself, my sister, and my mother, and he busted through the paparazzi line and came up to us and started playing with us, man. It was the coolest thing. This little 10-year-old boy, and I had my stars in my eyes, dude. But so he was super nice and funny and probably on cocaine. But man, his death hit me hard when I found out that he had passed away. That was rough. But yeah, man, Robin Williams was just one of my idols as a kid.
Domino's is to where the law firm that's right across the street from it is. She's supposed to be there.
This is their little Disney cabinet. Isn't that cute? Look at this vintage plush.
She's so lost.
Awesome.
Because this is a real one, most of them don't understand how these role plays are.
Oh man, an old Rescuer's lunchbox. Holy crap! I remember seeing that movie when I was a kid. When I got home, I took a big old box and acted like it was my little swamp riding thing. That was awesome. Every kid needs a tank and a military vehicle. For those of you that like Barbie, this is the place to go. Man, they have got Barbies everywhere here. Oh, wait a minute. It's Mr. Spock Barbie. That was only 80 bucks for that thing. Live long and prosper, my friends. It's the Star Wars Barbie collection. Yeah. You know, whenever I saw R2-D2, I always thought he would make a great Barbie. Oh, look. It's a vintage Charlie's Angels puzzle. This is definitely my favorite area of their store. It's the vintage Star Wars case. Oh man, now of course this stuff is newer, but they've got the vintage figures. Again, eBay prices. Jabba, he's 75 bucks. I still have that in the box that I bought back in 1983. And the story of Star Wars records. Some Black Series figures, awesome. Look at that. It's the collector case from Empire Strikes Back. I have the Star Wars version of that first movie, A New Hope. Stretch Serpent, and all those knockoff toys from the 70's. Yeah, look at these, Battlestar Galactica, Vipers, and figures. Man, I had the Cylon. That's really cool. They've got the, oh, what do they got on that? $250 for the prototype Boba Fett. And this was my holy grail. I never got it, and I wanted it so badly. It's the Death Star play set. It's not complete here, but still very cool. Oh, there's Yoda. I got him. Of course, they have a whole aisle also dedicated to Star Wars with newer stuff, which, you know, I still collect the newer stuff too. Especially the Black Series figures. I really like those. Something about those Black Series figures. I think it's because their size, relatively speaking to you as an adult, feels like you were when you were a kid. Oh, Legos galore. And Pops. And here's their boxed Black Series figures. Oh man, what they got there? Got Infinity's Darth Vader. That's pretty neat. The droids Boba Fett. Oh man, I'd kill for that thing. Look at that. So cool. Then we got $39.99 on him. That, it's a giant BB-8 head. That's bigger than he actually is. So the shop has a collection of Walking Dead figures. Now, the show Walking Dead was filmed about a town and a half over from Newnan in Sonoy, but also a lot of the things were filmed here in Newnan, including the final scene of the final episode of The Walking Dead. But yeah, a nice collection of figures, and I bought a Negan bat there. Got some Battlestar Galactica figures. Now, I haven't seen the new Battlestar Galactica, but I was a fan of the original series back in the 70's. Love that show. Got your X-Men figures, action figures from any comic book that you want. Lots of great stuff here. This is a really cool store. Of course, you got Pops. If you can't find it on eBay, check out this shop. You just might find it here. Now, as of the taping of this, it was June 30th, the release of the new Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So they have a few Indiana Jones figures at the moment. Talk about perfect timing. Can't wait to see that film. Love the originals. Model kits are hard to come by these days. Most places don't carry a huge selection, but here they have quite the selection of classic and modern cars. So if you're interested in that, or if you want to get your youngsters involved in that, they've got a good selection. Oh man, it's Mass. It's awesome. They have a great collection of horror figures as well. Love the NECA figures. I have the original monster figures. They made Frankenstein, Dracula, and this Wolfman. I actually have the color version of this figure. And they made all the figures in both black and white and color. And they've recently put out accessories for Frankenstein. It's the gurney, and Dracula, they have his casket, which is awesome. Love those figures. Of course, they have Evil Dead and Nightmare Before Elm Street. Oh, what? Hold on. Looks like a Snake Plissken figure from Escape from New York. It's also in the less successful sequel. They got loose action figures as well. This DC collection. Oh man, talk about Legos. They have a bunch of Legos here in the box, as well as already made Legos. Star Wars, Harry Potter, it's like Avatar, and Thor's hammer. But the thing is once you put it together, will you still be able to lift it? Are you worthy? Just use a glove and snap him to death. Oh, here's some of those already put together Legos. The Tantive 4, William Falcon, Slave 1, as well as a typewriter Lego. I don't know, that's weird. R2-D2, Back to the Future. Also, if you're looking for minifigs, they've got a pretty decent size collection here of minifigs. This is in the front case. They rotate these things out. So right now they've got this and these fig pins, which are all the rage, which I have one of Star Wars with R2-D2 and a Jawa. Oh, the Ghostbusters. I was an original movie kind of guy. My wife used to watch the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters, and this is what it looks like. This is what this is from. But they generally keep Ghostbuster stuff in this case, which is kind of strange, but in this case, there's an elf in a baseball uniform, and in past they've had the elf dolls, so this is like their elf case, apparently. And then some Alien and Predator. Actually, it looks like Predator stuff. Oh, and Stranger Things, the second one, I believe, they were dressed as Ghostbusters, and here are these figures. I'd never even seen these before, so that's really awesome. They have a huge selection of comics as well. Nothing like extremely vintage, but, fairly decent stuff in the last couple of decades, as well as newer things, as well as collection of magazines like Mad Magazine and whatnot. G.I. Joe. Now, this is the Ewok Village, and then the repurposed Ewok Village for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Kenner can't lose any money. These wrestling fans, they're here for you too. There's a bunch of wrestling figures. Just crazy amount. Also, G.I. Joe, they have some of the vintage G.I. Joes. Nothing like early. And then Power Rangers. Good stuff. Different military action figures besides G.I. Joe as well. And, oh, look, Dobby is a free elf. You gave Dobby a sock. Some more of the Harry Potter Legos with Harry there in the middle. They've got a bunch of Matchbox, Hot Wheels, and other makes of car models, as well as those large Star Wars figures from Kenner. But yeah, if you're looking for various cars for a display or just because you had one as a kid, check them out. They have a lot of board games, vintage board games. In fact, I've turned in some vintage board. That ESP game, I think that was mine that I turned in here. Also, Dodie from My Three Sons got his own paper doll. That's just kind of weird, but all right. I guess you didn't have much to do back in the day. Tank Battle, that was mine too, that I turned in here. Mork and Mindy, Shrink-a-Dink. Awesome. Once again, loved Mork and Mindy. Nanu. We've got Pop's collection here. I mean, there are Pops throughout the store, but there are certain areas where they keep a bunch of them. And this is one of them. This is an alleyway that leads back to the back where the vintage games are and stuff. The Pink Panther. I used to love watching that on Saturday mornings. get a bowl of cereal, and from 6 a.m. to noon, the TV was ours. Kids today just don't know the struggle of having only one day for 6 hours. Lunch boxes. They rotate these out. Obviously, they have different lunch boxes at different times. But look, man, there's a BG's lunchbox. But you know what? Nothing tastes better than a sandwich that's been cooking in a metal lunchbox for 4 hours before you eat it. I grew up in Florida, and the school that I went to did not have air conditioning, so my sandwich, bologna and mayonnaise, cooked for a while. Still tasted great, though. This is the back of the store. They've got one side over here is for record albums, and then this is the video games, both recent and vintage. This is where your records are. Great selection of records. More Legos back here. It's the Atari Lego, which is kind of fun. And they have a vintage Nintendo setup that you can play if you would like. More action figures, game-centric figures. And this is where they do the negotiating. You can turn in your games, your game systems, or you can bring it to them for repairs. They will repair your system. Oh, look at these old systems. That's awesome. Now, there's a Commodore 64. You know what? When I was a kid, I did not have Atari or Nintendo or Coleco, all that. My dad opted for a Commodore 64 computer, and that's what I played video games on. Space Taxi, when I remember. I used to go down to the 7-Eleven, or the bowling alley even had the arcade games. We'd play. This is their vintage systems in the case. And all this stuff here, they'll negotiate with you for prices on things. Maybe not necessarily what they have out there, but they're pretty good about that if you question something on a certain price. Some vintage games for Atari here. It looks like Dig Dug. That was an episode of Stranger Things. Those of you who are fans of Stranger Things. So yeah, only $12. Centipede. Oh my god, I need this Bigfoot game. Those kids look awful happy to be playing this game. I don't know if I'd be having that same emotion if I looked behind me and Bigfoot was sitting there. Bigfoot's real. Now, I can understand girls wanting to take their lunch to school in a Charlie's Angels lunchbox, but what kid was playing with Walton's figures when they got home from school? I mean, and then what kid would take their lunch to school in a Walton's lunchbox? I mean, I enjoyed the show, but I didn't want to come home and then start playing with Papa Walton action figures. Weird. And Gollum looks over his precious. Now they have got an action figure from the Mole People. Man, I know. I used to watch this Saturday morning or Sunday morning monster show, and one time they played the Mole People, and that movie freaked me out, dude. That was not a pleasant experience watching the Mole People. But there's an action figure. Take it home with you. So I really do love that store, man. That was cool. So I end up walking out with a NECA figure of E.T. One thing is this is downtown Newnan, and parking here can be pretty sketch. If you park in front of the store, you can't see traffic coming the other direction. So what I tend to do is I park down the street in the parallel parking locations rather than the sideways parking. So definitely check out Full Circle. They're awesome. The guy was super nice in there. There's in the back they've got video games and they refurbish and all that. And the front is all the vintage and some new stuff as well. I have sold stuff to them before. Um, However, they're going to give you 30% of the eBay price when you sell it to them. So if you've got old vintage stuff that you want to get rid of, I would say just go ahead and sell it on eBay. If you're looking for top dollar, if you just don't care and you want to get rid of it, then take it to them. They'll give you cash or store credit, and then you can walk out. I've took the store credit a couple of times just because I like getting stuff there, which is kind of neat. But yeah, super nice folks. So if you're in Newnan, check out Full Circle Toys.